Now, could someone please explain to me the narrative of this stupid Clippers team? For God's sakes. They're starting over the season under the first 10 games. Currently, it's a total of 8, around 9 starting over the season. They've won none since Harden was acquired around early in the season after getting traded to the Philadelphia 76ers for 3 first-round picks. 3 veteran rotational players for PJ Tucker and James Harden. Wow, now they got veteranship and more depth around the Sixers lineup after getting rid of a good two-way playmaker to assist Joel Embiid. The 76ers are starting off red hot over to the season with Tyrese Maxey having a career 50-point game against the Indiana Pacers. While the Clippers are falling 11th over in the Western Conference. Still winless, having acquired James Harden, with Paul George struggling to stay above 500. Norman Powell dropped over 20 off the bench. Paul George was only like 26, and that was his highest over the past 3 games they've had around the season. So over rotational depth, they lost Mason Plumlee and Brandon Boston Jr. and Bowen Holland. And they take it like Bowen Holland is like Tyrese Maxey or Emmanuel Quickley. He's a braided midget guard that can play make around the second unit. But guess what? Unlike those guys, he's not that productive. He is sadly one of the younger guys that they put over in rotational minutes next to Terrence Mann. That's in their 4th year in the season. So now they have a slower, broader, more inconsistent. James Harden went 1 for 7 off their game against. It was so bad because they were nearly trailing over 16 until they closed around the deficit in their game against the Memphis Grizzlies. Without John Morant you won't even see play until mid to late December around the holiday season when he's back due to his suspension. So just imagine what type of drama is going to consist. Because, of course, Kawhi is highly productive, but the age is a massive thing. Because if this was around 2018, this would have been a team to watch. You got 4 of your top players with double digits of experience in the NBA, but lack of winning anything. And Kawhi and Paul George are protected investments, so load management's going to be assessed, but with a lack of depth and youth on the roster, there's going to be a lack of consistency in guys to highly produce. Nobody's going to come up and then just drop 30 like that. Kawhi Leonard still has it. Highly productive defensively, but the way that the Grizzlies were just trolling by, if we just go over the last 4 games that they've played, it's been atrocious. Especially when they were closing up and they were trailing around at least 13, and still they were struggling to put over 100 points. When they lost to the Brooklyn Nets 193 and just got outplayed by Mikal Bridges, Royce O'Neal, and Cam freaking Thomas. It's just embarrassing basketball. They barely got spot-up shooters that can shot create. The only person that can come over from the bench and even rotate out, move out the ball, and then actually have a role on the offensive ball is Norman Powell. That's it. They have now Zubac got to play an excessive amount of minutes, thanks they can't really draw him out because Mason Plumlee's out. And they only got 1 two-bay out of Diabate because they've only got like 3 starter while playing a small ball. Thanks they got to extend Kawhi over to the power forward position, even though Paul George is like a taller wing. It's poor construction over on the roster with a player's coach, and you already got a ticking time bomb diva out of James Harden. That even though he's putting up excessive numbers, it's shown that he's going to be playing the same goddamn way, and he can't sacrifice his own play style, and he can assess over a playmaking system, but it got to be guys that he feels like are role players, and he knows Kawhi, Paul George, and Westbrook. So that's probably not going to happen. Thanks. He was too over reliant on trying to dish out around the baseline, focus over on the pick and roll, sauce up and try to just dribble, step back in three, and he got blocked twice in that game when he played against the Grizzlies. When he got blocked over from a three behind the arc by Jaren Jackson Jr., then he got that shit out of here when he got blocked over in the baseline. They can barely move the ball over forward, and Luke Kennard was cooking them. Desmond Bane cooking them. Rotation players that I bet Grizzlies fans never heard of were cooking the Clippers. And they keep losing over lesser margins when they're getting closed out. Even their game against the Dallas Mavericks, that was their highest point margin. They still lost by 22 points with Luka Doncic playing like it's an AAU squad. And they thought they needed defensive assistance over by a 33-year-old Paul George. They're shooting 3 for 12. Harden's 3 of 6, 8 for 15. Kawhi is the only assessed top player still on the team, while Westbrook got to push over the pieces with his bank shot and just rely over their jump shot. They have no system in place, and that's why the Clippers are going to fail this season. People are not even going to know it yet, because they just think only name value veteranship stars with no identity, a coach that don't know how to format it all, and then you have just a lack of sacrificial depth for a win-now squad that hasn't won shit. And then you got the Western Conference equivalent to the Chicago Bulls situation. So that's my take on all this. And this is sad because I thought Harden would go to something that he can assess himself as a secondary or at least a third option where his playmaking can still be valuable. If all these guys just split up, because I feel like the Clippers just around the half of the season just blowed up. And I understand it's only a couple games in with James Harden trying to mix over with his momentum, but you guys should already know how it is. These are tenured players that have their own defiant play style with no system in place, and you guys think they're going to at least sub around 500. And we're under 8 games into the season. And now they're 9 games into the season. The Clippers are still 3 games below 500 to start. And they can't even beat teams like the Mavericks that are starting off actually red hot, going over a 7-2 record when they played them. The Nets have a promising young core with good shot-creating playmakers on it. And they just lost in depressing fashion against, of course, a bit of a weakened roster with Ja Morant not on it. So what happens when they play tomorrow night? They'll be playing the Denver Nuggets. They got the Denver Nuggets, then the Houston Rockets that upset the Lakers. Then they got to play Wembanyama. And I feel like we really got to assess how they are going to play against probably the worser teams than they are against more competitive teams, to just see if they can gel over like how the New York Knicks are doing when they beat the Spurs, when they beat the Hornets, and now they're going to be having the rematch here tonight against the Boston Celtics. So let's just each his own. Let's give a bit of a low expectation tide until whatever the Clippers could do over the next, give or take, 10 games, the next 10 games. And then we can assess how these guys are because they have over a month or two of experience with one another. Because we all know these are just like rentals for a first-round exit. Or play-in exit. Whatever you guys assess. Because there's over a handful of teams better than the Clippers. And that goes over to teams like the Sacramento Kings. Fuck it, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the New York Knicks, the Boston Celtics, of course, the Milwaukee Bucks. The Miami Heat are even better than the Los Angeles Clippers. It's not even close. The Golden State Warriors are still just a leagues better, momentum better, and they're going to outcoach them anyway. And there's several more. The Indiana Pacers has been having the best high-scoring margins in the NBA as of late. The Toronto Raptors it sucks too, son. Because I like James Harden, I like Kawhi Leonard, I like Paul George, and it just feels like you're just wasting them over the value of their contract when they have the bare minimum of chemistry, identity, and just a poor play style, and just probably one of the slower paces in the NBA. You can't tell me anything else. Even the Hornets can beat the Clippers. Get this squad out of my head, man. I better not see this on the media anyway. But I am. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content.